Hello. Do you hear me like that? Yeah? Thanks, Rodrigo. Thanks, Amelia. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here today. We are not so fluent in English, but we'll try to do our best. I'm François, and with Paul, we are two of the four partners of NP2F. We all have an experience as an urbanist and architect at the same time. So we have a base, at the base of our reflection, an approach on created uses, on form in the public space. So we really started working together in 2010, and today we'd like to show you our approach with the four main projects. One completed, one under construction, one in development, and one recently won. For these four projects, we will give you a brief introduction with smaller projects, more theoretical thought, to set out the main objective of each project and what we had in mind when we developed them. We'll talk about some additional theme that guides us each day in our work. So the first pictures that you are going to see show the various sport facilities, because sport is an important subject for us. We did in 2014 a research in Paris for Le Pavillon de l'Arsenal about sports and the nature of the relationship between sport and the city. One of our first experimental project about this theme was this temporary playground that we built during the summer of 2014 during the exhibition, just in front of the Pavillon de l'Arsenal. It's a very simple project with a concrete slab placed directly on the existing sand floor. Thanks to sport, we talk not only about architecture, but also about urbanism and a project of different scales. Sport spaces are for us one of the primary ways to speak about spaces. Any sport spaces finally has to set of rules, sport is also sometimes the opposite. The form, the morphology are able to create uses. This drawing that we did for the exhibition show the garden of Pavillon in Sainte-Geneviève-des-Bois, near Paris. It's the garden of Romain Covolan. Romain decided to transform his garden into a big morphology, a concrete form for skateboarding. Those forms created new uses for the garden, and at the same time, a new bench, a new tribune for the village. Other architects, of course, worked on this subject before us. Aldo van Eyck is probably the most famous. We looked a lot his work, his concept, his playground, and specifically his playgrounds in Amsterdam, built after the World War. And we like this quatuor, form equals uses, equals places, equals city. That's what we are going to talk about now.
Hi. So during this research, we drawn a lot of situation. We drawn a lot of situation in Paris and around, and one of them was in the historical center of Paris, close to an old fortification, which is here, and a church which is named Saint Paul. And by coincidence, we have been interrogated to reduce this small equipment. So here is our project in the center. It's something quite simple. A continuous floor, some lines, and some net. And due to the historic character of the site, we had to produce a light project, not to make it disappear, but to produce a maximum of potential with a limited intervention. We like the idea that this plan looks like with all this void and object, void around all this object, looks like a city map or city plan, a large free space, but organized. So here, this is a zoom on the floor, which is quite technical in a way. It's a sportive floor, but made with the aspect of an old ground. Ground. And so we add some small experimentation on this floor with this basic nets and line and morphology. So this is the biggest one project we built really beginning our office. It was in 2010, and it's a school of circus. So it's the one which is after the how do you say the first school. So it's a superior school of circus. There is one in France and probably two others in the world. So it's something which is not so usual. It's in Châlons-en-Champagne, in the east of France, and so this is the existing site. It's a site with sorry. So it's a very strong site with a very strong history. Also with this highway crossing the plot in the middle, and all this industrial and technical building on the side. Until the contest, the school used to be in some tents, like this one and this one, and all the services or all the stockage were in the existing building. What is quite nice with the circus tent is this poetic feeling when you look at them from outside. Is something totally how do you say, massive. There is no window, nothing visible from out of this tent. But when you go in it, it's look like a really fairy world, totally out of what we know usually in our quotidian life. And so we quite like this idea, this contrast of having two kind of different feeling of the space. So our idea was to conserve all the existing building and to build a new one on an empty part of the site, and to continuing the industrial system. And so the idea was so here is the existing, and our project is just here. So the site, here are the program, which is really a lot of variety of program, offices, sports class, etc., and which a lot of different height, coming from 3 meters to 20 meters high, but all on one floor, the ground floor. So we put all of them together, close to the existing part. And it's creating this plan, which is in continuity of the existing building. And what we wanted to produce is to blur the limit between the existing and the project limits, and at the same time create this a long facade of 100 meters and maybe 130 meters. So it's quite long, and it's the highway is here, and so it's creating some an affichage directly to this highway. Here is a zoom in this plan, which is always a bit like a city map, with some place, with some patio, a maximum of diversity, a circulation for sure, and some different hall, like this one, letting the light enter in this really large building. So in section, here is the building process with, on the back of the picture, the existing part, and in the front, which, so it's a steel structure, and in the front, the processes of creation of all this concrete structure. So we produce all these concrete things on the site. The module was so large, as it's 20 meters high, that it didn't fit on a truck. So we had to produce some kind of a little usine fabrics, and it's a half what do you say, prefabricated. And as there is no floor, during the building phase, there was this kind of situation of big columns, no floor, and fronting the existing thing. So the main facade, fronting the highway, and there is not a lot of things showing that it's a school of art. Only the stairs, which is on a way technical. The really big door, which is 15 meters high, and this artist intervention with light on the left. So from outside, it's a massive building. And when you go inside, windows are quite large. This is the patio. On the left, this is the black box for theater. And on the right, the main rooms to practice circus. So here's the assemblage of the different concrete parts. And here with the students, and so the building starting to live with his own history. And so this is the day of the inauguration. So there was this installation with students coming from outside to enter the building with the door.
I will now develop another recurrent theme of the office, the unlimited ambiguity that connects the building and the city. We like to work on this concept both blurry and rich, as Paul said before. The Fab Lab IMAL project in Brussels reflects precisely these issues. I will now develop all the specificities of the project. This small project will be an introduction to a larger project in Bordeaux. So, IMAL is a competition launched by the city of Brussels, as well as by the European Union. We have responded with our Belgian friends Central, and we will soon start construction. It involves redeploying a fab lab in a former floor mile already used in part by the fab lab, and on the ground floor by a beverage deposit, as you can see here on the picture. We immediately appreciate the great opening allowed by the structure. The floor of the city naturally extends into the building, and it was the starting point of the project. The interpenetration and maximization of the line of contact. The facade on the street, therefore, literally enters the building, creating a metal round structure. And large openings, here in blue, can leave the opening completely free. You see here a section of our intervention. On the left, by removing a part of the slabs on the 3 levels, the building opens toward the city. We see here a white perforated metal net that marks the new facade inside the building. The center space allows to see the machine. They are displayed. They become elements of architecture. As an extension of the intimate relationship that we are working on between architecture and urbanism, between building and city, I will now describe the project of the Catedral De Spa in Bordeaux. This is a private promotion project whose construction will begin in, I hope, in January 2019. So, the Sport Cathedral will settle in the district under construction of Bordeaux, in the front of the historic city center, the district of Brazza. The building will assemble in the same structure on 50,000 square meters, a large number of different sports. Obviously, we had in our mind Cesse Pompey of Lina Bobardi, which shows and puts forward in a total structure unheated sports spaces for the most part. It also highlights the ability of sport to create strong interaction between different places, between athletes, and between the building itself and its surrounding. So here, in our Sport Cathedral project, it is a concrete frame supporting 5 levels over 20 meters high, and is surmounted by a golf practice structure of another 20 meters. The building has no traditional facade. Rather than having a mechanical and systematic temperature, we consider that sports practiced in mainly outdoor spaces can work inside the building with no need for heating. Each level is therefore generally open and surrounded by agricultural nets. These nets correspond to an economy of gesture and material, and therefore to a real ecological, quantifiable, and concrete approach. There is no smoke extraction, for example, in this building. They allow to renew the air while reducing 50% of the wind sensation, because it is the main problem when one exercises a sport activity. We imagine this building as 5 overlaid public piazzas. We spoke earlier about the relationship between the building and the city. The slabs are the support for the activities that will be in direct contact with the outside, but also in the relation to each other. We seek to open spaces and to create finally very simple links between places of sport practice and natural or urban elements, a connected climate. Another Brazilian reference to a Salvador Candia building in Sao Paulo, the Metropole Gallery. Many Brazilian references finally to talk about sport. explained by a certain sweetness that we seek to speak of the opening to the outside. A certain economy of gesture that leads to remove the superfluous. Here, large floors, shelter, enclosed spaces, streets, finally, public spaces. The plan of each floor is drawn as a city. The project plans takes up these questions. In a capable and recurring structure, they mark places, poles, buildings, streets, squares. In the ground floor plan in gray and heated spaces, white spaces with a controlled temperature for the need of closed space, such as restaurants and some activities like yoga or showers. In the axonometric drawing, we see the different programs occupying each level. These are blocks around which we turn, independent entities that do not constitute a massive building. These create narrowing distances, different used spaces. The first level and the second level are dedicated to squash, fitness, indoor climbing with learning walls, and outdoor with the rock, as well as a slack line, jump line, and high line. The third level is occupied by 7 paddle tennis courts, as well as a golf course. This level is completely open, without box apart from the staircase and the elevators. Then finally on the top are the practice area with 14 strike pools, a bar and a putting green area. The idea here is to hit golf balls while watching Bordeaux and your friends having a beer. That's it. Here are some pictures showing the building in the center of the neighborhood. And here in the direction of Bordeaux. There are moments, almost spontaneous, specific places, stairs and steps in these large capable spaces. This small town, which I described, creates its shift and a global envelope, specific moments and specific architectures. We can say that we recognize ourselves in an architectural form of Lévi-Straussian structuralism, a common language, globality, columns, concrete slab, therefore a permanent, clear, extended structure. A traceable system makes up the project. A single building, a single system. It is a preliminary. But to come back to the structuralism of Lévi-Strauss, in the same time, a punctual word appears. Element, adaptation, differences, evolutions are allowed. This is a composition. I'm going to talk now about Kenshiku, commonplace, and after that about social housing of Rui Barracks. We did this study, so Kenshiku, it means architecture in Japanese. We did this study for an exhibition in Paris and in Tokyo in 2015. The subject was to observe and compare the public spaces in Paris and Tokyo. When we were there, we were very impressed by the position between this amazing megapole and some little places on the street, very beautiful, precise, and above all, domestic. So we did 4 models on these places to show these moments. These places, for example, this place, for example, with a very clean parking space for cars. I guess nobody parks there. Nobody parks their car if they are not allowed to. And with this parking lot, you have a vending machine which is also strange in this kind of parking. The relationship is strange. Also, this amazing little moment with some public streets lights, a public toilet, and this vegetation carefully maintained on the street by the inhabitants. This is a public space. Strange. Now I will present the project of Reuilly. We are building with another Belgian friends of Office Kirsten Geers, David Van Severen. It's 129 social housing. Here is the part we are working on. The right part of this typical French barrack. The right part. We installed 3 new buildings surrounding the existing one, the barrack, separated by narrow streets like Passage Parisien that create small places, corners and corridors inside the complex. Here you can see the plan of the pedestrian link. Creating places like that for the inhabitants. So the urban link is reinforced by the ground floor fully in concrete. This gives to the project a durability and a specific aesthetic which is able to absorb all the activities on the Parisian streets. Here is the new buildings above. But mostly the project is about windows. So that's a good point for panorama. The main action was to accord our new building with the older ones, the existing barracks. So we accorded our floors to the existing ones, and that permitted the creation of social housing with a generous height of 20.9 meters for each apartment. And it permits to work with big windows everywhere, 2.5 by 2.5 for each building. 2.14. 2.4. These buildings, throughout the 3 new buildings, create big diversity between all the facades. Because the distance between the windows is different for every building, thanks to the trumeau, which change for each facade. Sometimes the building appears like a structure. Sometimes it appears like a classic Haussmannian building. Social housing is highly codified in France. This simple act profoundly modifies the way we live in our apartment, we hope so, and in the relationship between the outside constantly changing according to its position. There is a video. Sorry. I don't know because there is the eraser. Clique dessus pour peut-être l'annuler. Ah. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Woo! That's a video.
Yeah, it's smooth.
There's no sound?
No, it doesn't. So the main topic of the video is the windows and the variety of space it's creating with outside, but with always this frame, same frame.
Sometimes it's very near. It's 1 hour like that. Huh? 1 hour.
So this is the two last projects, a small one and a bigger one. Both of them are in Marseille, so south of France, and they are speaking about this question of the limit between inside and outside. So the first project is in this small house here. It's really close to the sea, as you can see. So, and it's and just on the from one side the sea, and then the other side a tropical garden, which is a quite unusual moment in the Marseille, as everybody wants to see the sea, so the Mediterranean Sea, and so usually when you have a look on the sea, the guys after you is going a bit higher to look at the sea also. So this strange configuration, or unusual, was the starting point of the project, and we did some. So the project is just here. The existing part is here, and we just dig all the wall in it to create two tubes of 16 meters, letting the possibility to see at the same time the both condition we just speak about. Here is the plan of the level 1, the common space of the family with the living rooms and the kitchen on the side, just here. In this very simple structure, metal columns and the concrete slab, the glass wall create a blur between inside and outside. The window do not try to disappear. It's not a minimalist intervention. They create a new relationship to the outside that is not dictated by the slab. They stand alone, sliding from some and fixed for the others. The simplicity is also found in the different treatment of the railing, a railing made of steel around the stairs, and another one with some concrete planters on the left. And there are different height for sure. This one is, as it's thick, deep, it's only 70 centimeters high. So the building built. Sorry. And this particular condition or link between inside and outside, as here. So the last project is a project we won 10 months ago. We are doing it in association with Marion Bernard, which are from Marseille, Point Suprême from Athens, and Jacques Lucan from Paris. The program is a school for architects, classic one, like here, but also for landscape architect and urban architect. It's called Institut Méditerranéen de la Ville et des Territoires. This is an ambitious project, and we are really proud to work on it, also because it's situated in Marseille, south of France, and this is the city where we're coming from. So for us, it's something big. So to understand the project, you have to know that it's a big changement for the existing school of architecture, which used to be there. So in the limit of the city, really far from the center, in a paradisiac context with all these pine trees or calanques, really close to the sea. And but it was like a lost paradise. It was so far from everything that it was totally isolated and don't create a good condition for a school who would like to give input to the city. Yeah. And so when appears the question to renovate the actual school, which is here since 50 years, no, 50, yeah. The authority decide to move the school in the center of Marseille. And after all, the actual school has a lot of quality, as we can see on this picture, really appreciated by the student and the teacher, and particularly we did our first year here, so we practiced it, and we really liked it at this moment. And also because of the link between inside and outside, and it's really quite usual to have some students and some classroom under this how do you say, canopy or something like that. And it's also a radical move for the center of Marseille, which is going to receive this school because it is an old port. This is a train station, and the project is just here. It's a radical changement because the highway, which is here, used to go in the city, and with a big rond-point, circle, you know, this street circular, yeah, around this monument, which is an Arc of Triomphe. And so the urban project is to build all around this Arc de Triomphe and to reshape or restructure the urban context. The plot is about 5,000 square meters and a large slope because there is a difference of 10 meters between here and here. And so here you can see the Arc de Triomphe, which is la Porte d'Aix, so used to be a door for the city to the other one. The brief is about an institute, an assemblage of 3 schools, and it's questioning at the same time the urban presence of such assembly and the question of the functionment of this institute, which aim to favorize exchange and interdisciplinarity, and we look at it as a urban campus. here we can see a map of Pompeii, which is speaking for us of how to assemble a large variety of programs while creating a coherent outfit. Within the middle, the forum surrounded by an alignment of columns, which creates the unity, a city in the city. So the retranscription of Pompeii references in our project, which is a structural project, and letting appears the variation between the different elements and at the same time a common language all around the void in the middle. So rather than differentiate the three schools, it seems to us more accurate to distinguish programs. Distinguish is let us creating some void in the middle, but also allows the increased singularity of each program. So the three buildings, the first one, which is this one, is a long bar with all the 30 studios inside. Really serial one. All the studios are coming like that, traversant. Second building is a research and experimentation building. It's a way to put research in front of a school, which is not always the case. And here the common building, where there is on the first level the forum, then the administration part, and on the top the library. So the building on the left and the void on the right. So as there is this slope of 10 meters, there is three courtyards. The first one, which is an entrance courtyard. The second one, which is close to the experimentation building, and so it's a technical, or what do we say, experimentation courtyard. And then a garden on the highest point with all this pine tree. So here is the slope and the link with the Arc de Triomphe. So create from nothing, because the plot, you get it, it was totally empty. Create from nothing a building of this size in the middle of an historical center, inevitably interroge ourselves about the presence of this building. And because of its program, the building should also appear as a system able to integrate all the futures and all the evolution possible. So the main facade is in our project an open facade, collecting all the echo of the city as a temperate monumentality. So this drawing is showing the Arc de Triomphe on the right and a slice of our project on the left. Like this, the project could appear really classical. It had the same rhythm than the Arc de Triomphe, same kind of composition with the column in the front. And at the same time, we can read an assemblage of a system, so the structural one, which is in gray here, and a composition, which is here, which is express all the variety and all the, what do we say, the specific space for each program. And it's an assemblage of permanent elements and evolving one. So from far away, the building appears as a coherent building, a massive ensemble. But when you come closer to the building, a succession of situations appears, creating a lot of variation, a lot more of complexity, with sorry, with these stairs coming in front, Château d'Eau on the top, the library which is here, which is the specific sun mask, and all the other programs. About massiveness, here are two references speaking of this assemblage. So Palazzo Tarughi and Palazzo Lanfranchi. Sorry for the Italian guys. Sure, yeah. And it looks terribly regular when you look at it from far away. But when you approach and when you look precisely, there is some variety, some evolution visible. Like there is this ordonnancement, and then some window really different, like this. And here there is this old church which was there, and on the top of it the palazzo was built. And so they try to keep like a global, what do you say, ordonnancement, but you still read the evolution and all the potential of it. And we like this complexity and at the same time this massiveness. So in our project, the two elements are this one in concrete, classic concrete, and the other which are gray or kind of, and those one which are in prefabricated concrete, white. So we're almost done. We've just do a small tour in the building. So this is the ground floor connected to the city with the courtyard in the middle. The courtyard. On the right, the forum. Behind the amphitheater, and on the left, the cafeteria. Having all these exterior spaces allow to have a lot of different possibility. Experience courtyard, the pine trees. And so in the facade appears two main levels, the ground floor and the third floor. We have 5 meters high under ceiling. It's a level with an intensity more important, and with 3 programs. So the first one is the atelier, the big one, which is 1,000 square meters. The library on the right, the research here, library. Yeah. And so from an aerial view appears all this network of terraces and bridges, pedestrian bridges, which creates the urban campus we have in mind at the moment of the competition. And the roof and all the terraces are, we have some friends, urbanist friends, which like to say that the building is the city main supporters, and it was kind of a goal for our project. Thank you.